the Ghanaian business ecosystem has been notorious for terrible customer service experiences.
In Ghana, business owners are so scared to ask for feedback. But I feel like if you're scared, that's an indication that you know that there's something that's lacking somewhere. At the end of the day, your business fails to exist without a customer. When I talk about customer experience in Ghana, anyone asks me what brand is really delivering on customer experience, ExpressPay is that brand. Because they understand personalization, they understand responsiveness. And in this market, businesses are not responsive. You know, you call a business, they don't pick up. Or when they pick up, the person's like, hello, yes. There's no like professional greeting. So data is king when it comes to customer experience, right? So when you look like at Amazon or Apple or Sephora, even like the top hotels, they collect your data and then they use that to give you recommendations on personalized recommendations on things that you like. So if we look at Amazon, for example, if you just research, you don't even have to buy anything. They start giving you recommendations based on what you're researching. Just to use Instagram business owners as an example, the vendors, they might not put their prices up on the pictures.
For price. It's only, like customer experience, customer service. Why is it important?
We're thinking about if a customer realizes that they have a need for something, you want your brand to be top of mind. Why? Because
friends, so another Toolkit episode with Maureen Atebawone. Maureen is a consultant and expert, so to speak, on the issues of customer experience for businesses, right? She's consulted for multinationals, small businesses, and we felt the need that, as a community of entrepreneurs and business owners, we need this kind of information. So why not? So I really hope you enjoyed the conversation with Maureen, and we touched on her personal journey into this foray of doing this line of consultancy and her experiences. And she shared like a lot of insightful nuggets on what it means to audit yourself as a business in regards to like your customer experience, what customer experience means, who the customer is, a handful. And I really hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And I remember when I saw your post on Instagram, after a conversation with Emmanuel in team, I saw your comments and I went on your profile and I was like, oh, great. You're doing great work, particularly tailored for customer experiences. This would be a great like Toolkit episode for like the kind of people we are as a community of like founders and entrepreneurs. So
yeah,
thanks for honoring the invitation.
I was actually surprised that you sent me an invitation, but it's funny that you mentioned Emmanuel's because one of my friends sent me the interview.
Okay.
She's like, you need to watch this episode. Like, I feel like you really need to watch this episode. So I did, and I was really impressed.
You enjoyed it?
Great questions. Obviously, I know Emmanuel as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know so much about like his business and his background. So it was very insightful for me as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're the founder for Bawoni Consult, which is essentially focused on helping businesses more or less create great experiences for their customers. And the funny thing is that the Ghanaian business ecosystem has been notorious for terrible customer service experiences, right? But before we touch on Bawoni on that front, just want to know you as a person.
Okay.
I know you went to Ghana International School.
Yes.
What happened after Ghana International School?
So I took a year off and then, because GIS has upper 6 and lower 6. I took a year off and then I moved to Canada.
Okay.
So I did my last year of actually high school in Canada, in a college, in a pre-university college, where it kind of prepares you for the Canadian educational system because GIS uses the Cambridge system and then Canada has their own Ontario high school program. So I did that for, I think it was 8 months to a year. And then I went to Carleton University after that in
What did you
Ottawa.
study at Carleton?
What did I study?
Yeah, Carleton.
So I have a BA in law.
Oh.
Yeah, I did an undergrad in law and a minor in French.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then after Carleton?
And then after Carleton, I came back to Ghana for a year. Initially, it was for vacation, and I decided to stay for a year. I worked with a wonderful organization. At the time, it was called Golden Baobab. They were basically an African children's literature organization. So they were promoting African children's literature, authors, and they had a prize called the Golden Baobab Prize. So I was their programs associate for that year. And then I went back to Canada after that and moved to Toronto. Yeah.
Okay. Now you're here in Ghana doing active work. What brought you back?
You know, I think I always knew I would move back because when I came in 2012, I remember the scene was changing. Like things were developing. There were a lot of people around my age that were moving back as well, setting up businesses. There seemed to be like a rise in entrepreneurship with people within my network.
Okay.
I took time to kind of assess, like in terms of hospitality, there were a lot of restaurants popping up. I remember Republic started that year as well.
Okay.
There were so
The
many.
one at Usu.
Yes.
Yeah.
So many social enterprises. So it kind of sparked the thought of potentially starting a business in Ghana.
No.
And at that point, I was thinking about customer service, just
Right.
customer service.
Right.
Because I realized that there were a lot of businesses coming up, but the customer service wasn't on par with the quality of the businesses that were being set up. We were still lagging behind. And I mean, when I was 14, I actually wanted to go to a hospitality management school in Switzerland. And I kind of shared the idea with my dad, and he wasn't too keen. So I think inherently there's always been this kind of passion for hospitality, service, customer service, working with people, providing service. I just didn't know what it would look like in the end.
Yeah.
But at that point in 2012, I knew that there was, a customer service business in the works. Yeah.
But at that point, do you have like any prior formal customer service experience training?
I wouldn't say formal. I worked throughout university. And, in Canada, after your first year of university, you can work for a certain number of hours. So I worked, retail, worked my way up to management in retail. And you obviously have to learn about customer service in those roles because they have expectations depending on the business that you're working with. My mom also, she was a caterer, and she kind of like exposed me to how to treat customers because she would have her clients and then we would go with her to like different businesses when she was delivering meals and stuff like that. So we saw how growing up, how she created relationships with her clients. She was really good at that.
She passed on the culinary skills as well.
To a certain extent. Yeah. Yeah, she did. So I think that's where the interest came from. It just came very naturally to me.
Okay.
And so that's why I think everything kind of just lined up. And when I moved back to Canada in 2012, end of 2012, I worked in
Came to Ghana and moved back to Canada.
Yeah, so I was only in Ghana for a year.
Yeah.
Then I moved back to Canada. And I started working with a business in educational tourism. And we had to deal with so many different clients all over the world. There were clients in China and there were clients in Africa. Like just the portfolio was so vast that you had to be able to navigate the different nuances with the cultures and their expectations. And that's where I got the bulk of my customer experience training from. Okay. Yeah.
And also I think it also speaks to, you are bringing as a person. You mentioned that by each 10, you spent a chunk of your time in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And then Canada, America, school there. So I think I'm interested. How was growing up like? Do you have siblings?
I have one sibling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So do you think that exposure to like that multicultural exposure also helped you navigate that as a person working in customer service?
Yeah, I definitely feel that early on, I developed a very open-minded mindset because you're exposed to so many different cultures very early on. And you have to find a way to navigate that. You don't just say, okay, I'm Ghanaian, so I behave this way. Everyone has their own way of like their perceptions. And so you have to be able to like maneuver everyone and their personalities and their perceptions, their expectations. So I probably developed that early on when I was young, primary school, and then moving to Ghana as well, and then moving to Canada.
All right. So what moved the needle for you to finally say, okay, hey guys, I'm packing up from Canada, I'm coming to Ghana, and I want to do this, Bawoni?
Yeah, I mean, for me, on a personal level, the majority of my family was here.
Okay.
And I'm sure a lot of people that lived outside or moved outside for uni or whatever can relate. It can be very isolating. I'm the kind of person where I need warm weather. Canada is a very cold country. 8 months out of the year, it's so cold. And so I was also like dealing with like seasonal depression, where once winter hits, I was like a completely different person from when the summer. So I just realized like, you know what, maybe the best in terms of the quality of life that I wanted was in Ghana with my family. And then I didn't really know what would happen once I got here. I didn't know that I would start a business. Like I just said I would come, get a job, and then see how it goes. And then eventually it led to Bawoni.
Okay, so you came to Ghana looking for a job. How did that play out?
It was an interesting journey. Let me put it that way. I think I was lucky because when I came in 2012, I networked a lot.
Okay.
The job that I had required me to network. You know, my boss was amazing, Deborah. She just taught me so much, but she taught me a lot about networking, getting to know people, and also placing yourself in different groups, right? So because it was a social enterprise, I was mixing with a lot of people that were starting businesses. So I had something to tap into when I came back. So I reached out to people. You know, it's a whole different job process here. It's a lot of who you know and, you know, people that can vouch for you. One of the greatest platforms was Ahaspora, which I posted that I was looking for a job, and then I got several interviews from that. Actually, I got my first job because of Ahaspora. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No.
Okay.
New to me.
So it's really just a platform for repats at that point. For anyone that is Ghanaian, maybe they lived in the diaspora or they lived here and they moved and they were coming back to network and then tap into that network to establish themselves. A very good support system. So I think I just posted on that platform that I was looking for a job. I might have posted my CV and I got a few hits and that's how I got my first job. Yeah.
All right. Bawoni. Got a job. What moved you out?
Out of the job?
Yeah, why did you decide to start
So
thing?
I worked in 2 jobs within, I think, the first year and a half. Okay. And, you know, the first one was great. It kind of exposed me to the work environment and the culture here.
Okay.
It also was very good for networking because I was working in a media company in their events partnership and marketing department. So it meant that I would have to meet with like a lot of CEOs and, you know, decision makers in different businesses about promoting whether it's their brand or their products on our platform. So that really helped my network. Okay. And then a client poached me from that job to a second job, which was also in marketing. Again, exposed me to a really good like network of people. But ultimately, and I think this is just inherently who I am, I think about like quality of life. I was working so much that I wasn't spending time with my family. Okay. And that was not why I moved back. So I left that job. And then that's when, I mean, even before I left, I had started thinking about, you know, this customer service thing, customer experience thing. I remember I would leave work, go and sit at a coffee shop and just start writing things down.
But was the reminder coming from like first-hand experiences from like the whole customer service experience in Ghana?
Yeah, I just felt like nothing was really substantially improving. Okay. You know, I'll talk about Accra. Accra was developing rapidly, but we were still having the same issues that we had when I was here in 2012 and probably that we had when I was growing up. With regards to customer service. Okay. And I also realized that a lot of people were not talking about customer experience, you know, and there's a difference, you know, it just changes your whole like approach to how you run your business if you're just focused on customer service and not the entire experience. So a friend of mine gave me this book, The 4-Hour Work Week. Okay. And that really kind of expedited the idea of like establishing a business because I was like, you know what, this is something I can do. I have a network. Let me at least just try and see what happens because everyone talks about customer service. Yeah. So that's how it started, literally. Okay. Yeah.
Hello, friends. So sorry to interrupt you. I know you're enjoying this conversation and I'm so sorry about rudely interrupting you. But then it's come to our attention that about 82% of you guys who consume our content have not subscribed. Your subscription goes a long way to help us and encourages us as a team to keep bringing you what we bring you every week. So just do us a little favor. Hit the subscribe button, share, and if possible, comment. Thank you. And how did you get like first client?
Network. It's again network. Yeah. So I remember when I started, I had a group of friends, 3 other girls, women, that were also either starting a business or thinking of starting a business or doing like a social enterprise. So we would meet up once a week and we would just work on brainstorm with our business ideas, what we can do better, all these things, like just kind of building. We all wanted to build, but we needed that support so we could bounce ideas off of each other. So we would meet up once a week. And one of my friends, she was running a platform at the time called Where Ghana Eats. I don't know if you've heard of it, Lydia. And so Lydia, because she was running that platform, she was meeting with restaurants.
Okay.
And obviously restaurants, everyone talks about the customer service. So she had met with a client of hers to market that restaurant. And the manager was like, yeah, but do you know anyone that trains, or do you know anyone that can help us with our customer service? And she's like, yes, I have the perfect person. She called me on the spot, gave me his number. I met with him. And then that's how I got my first client. It took 4 months though, from when I started. It took 4 months to land a client. But yeah, that's how I got my first client.
Wow. Okay, so I think zoning in on like customer experience, customer service. Why is it important? Why should founders, business owners pay attention to customer service experience?
Okay,
if you have a product, you have a product you want. My product is so good, you want to. What must I care about how you get what you get? What matters is that you get it anyway.
Well, yeah. I think at the end of the day, your business fails to exist without a customer. Okay, so that is why. That's, if anything, that one reason is why you should focus on the customer experience. But also, now customers have access to so many things at the tips of their fingertips, like the tips of their hands, their fingertips. So focusing on the experience allows you to capture that customer and keep them loyal, One of the key aspects is that when we talk about the experience, we're talking about the end-to-end experience. We're not just talking about them purchasing the product, right? Okay. A customer can come in and purchase a product and never return. But we're thinking about if a customer realizes that they have a need for something, you want your brand to be top of mind. Why? Because maybe you're convenient, you're professional, quick service, effortless, all these different reasons. And that's how you really capture your customers. I know that to give more context, when the pandemic happened, a lot of businesses they were selling their products. Like they were fine selling their products. And then the pandemic happened and they didn't have access to their customers anymore. Customers couldn't walk into their businesses and purchase because of the lockdown, because of all these restrictions. And a lot of businesses did not know that they actually did not have relationships with their customers because they didn't have customer data. They were not engaging their customers. And so they were in a bind. Like, how am I going to get them to, like, how is my business going to keep running without customers walking into my business? And the businesses that did well, they had customer data. So they had a way to contact their customers to inform them of this whatever the new procedure is, whatever the new operations were. But the ones that didn't, they weren't prioritizing the customer. So they never thought to collect the data. They never thought to build relationships. They never thought to engage.
Are there general blocks, with your experience so far as a consultant in this regard, blocks or markers that every business owner must pay attention to if you're going to dole out a great customer experience? Like generic, businesses are varying, the fields are varied, but are there like general blockers?
Fundamental.
That you think businesses should pay attention?
Yeah, I think the first step is what we call a customer journey, right? Okay. You have to know what your customer journey looks like. And essentially that is everything from when a customer realizes they have a need for something to after they purchase from your business. What steps will they take? And usually a business will have a general idea of what that looks like. But if you dive deeper and ask yourself questions like, where do we normally lose customers? Maybe a customer might, I know we have a lot of Instagram businesses or business owners. They might message you on Instagram and then you send them your price and you never hear from them again. That is a drop-off point, right? And if you know your customer journey and you're optimizing that, you'd ask yourself, well, what can we do better at that point so that we don't lose a customer at that point, So understand the end-to-end, the entire journey that your customer has. That's the first thing. And optimize it. Ask yourself what you can do better at each step. There's something that we call touch points, which is like the points of interaction a customer will have with you. So that could be WhatsApp, Instagram, website, social media, phone call, email, all of that. You always want to make sure that at each touch point, you're providing an optimized customer experience. The next thing I would say is, make sure that you are collecting customer data. It doesn't have to be so detailed, but name, phone number, email address is a great starting point. Why? Things like the pandemic happen. You want a way to contact your customers. You want a way to engage them. You want a way to build relationship. The data is what will help you build your framework, your customer experience framework. Because really with customer experience, it's the best customer experiences are built on data-driven decisions, right? So when you look at Amazon or Apple or Sephora, even like the top hotels, they collect your data and then they use that to give you recommendations on personalized recommendations on things that you like. So if we look at Amazon, for example, if you just research, you don't even have to buy anything. They start giving you recommendations based on what you're researching. That's personalized, right? Yeah. So data is king when it comes to customer experience. If you want to have a simple customer experience, yes. If you want a more memorable customer experience, you need data. So start collecting data. Every business should be collecting customer data.
You mentioned that we collect customer data, build relationships. Must we really build relationship with the customers? What does that mean? Because there's a point for me as a customer, I don't want you to be overwhelmed, because I actually get irritated when I get texts from products I used and bought from, and hello, how are you doing? And how do we manage that?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's actually a good example. Most businesses should actually have an opt-out of those text messages, because if you don't want them, it gets annoying. There will be customers that love that, right? So you have to also segment your customers, because I don't know why in Ghana we can't opt out of those messages, because I actually hate them myself. But in terms of building relationships, yes, it's important. It doesn't have to be an extensive relationship, but it's for the loyalty, right? So we use one of the key differences between customer service and customer experience is the metrics, right? So we measure a lot. And when you build relationship, then you can measure your customer lifetime value and extend it. And your customer lifetime value can be defined as the amount of money that a customer spends at your business over a lifetime or a period of time. But if you don't have that data and you haven't built that relationship, you wouldn't know that, right? Other things like customer satisfaction, customer engagement, all those things are tied into the relationship that you're building. So if, for example, you want a business that lasts, there has to be a relationship with your customers, because you need to engage them.
Does that include, in a bit to build relationship with your customers, does that include must it include these loyalty deals and discounts? Do they count?
They count, but every business is different. So for me, when a prospective client or anyone approaches me to work with them, I really try and understand what their vision for the business is, what their brand is. I really ask those kind of questions to know what the personality of the brand is, because not every business should be offering loyalty. Right before I came here, I was thinking about coffee shops. Someone had posted that they were going to sit at they were starting to love a specific coffee shop in Accra, to work from there. And I said, in my mind, I was like, that's a missed opportunity. Coffee shops are great because freelancers go there, remote workers go there, and it's not enough to just recognize a face.
Are you thinking about starting a coffee shop?
Pardon?
Are you thinking about starting a coffee shop?
I mean, in my dream world, I would have a coffee shop with a lovely bookshelf with lots of books and some records, but I don't think I'll do that.
Why? Because you will
we'll
have
see.
Great
Maybe when I retire.
Okay.
But it's a missed opportunity, because it's one thing if the waiters recognize that individual, their face, but you could go a step further and say, okay, this person is here 3-4 times a week. Let's offer them a free coffee with a meal. And that builds, they tell their friends, and then their friends come there, right? So loyalty is not always free things. It can be points, it can be special offers, it can be access, it can be luxury, so many different ways, right? But for every business, you would have to define it based on what your business looks like and the vision for your business.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're going on with the blockers. So customer journey, Customer data.
Yeah,
anything
customer
else?
data, voice of customer. So that's also linked to customer data, and that's essentially feedback.
Okay.
Okay. So you want to make sure that you are talking to your customers and getting feedback, asking them a simple question like, how can I improve the experience for you?
Okay.
And in Ghana, people are so scared of feedback. Business owners are so scared to ask for feedback. But I feel like if you're scared, that's an indication that you know that there's something that's lacking somewhere. There's a gap somewhere.
Why do you
right?
think that is? Why do you think Ghanaian businesses are afraid of feedback?
Culture. I also think it's culture. You know, there's this whole thing about customers don't want to give feedback because they don't want to ruin someone's business. But feedback is gold. You know, it tells the business owner, this is what I can do better. This is what I need to improve, right? So I think there needs to be a mindset shift with the business owners and the customers, because the customers are also, they should be held accountable for, you know, if you have a bad experience, you should be able to express that. You're spending your money. And you should be able to get your money's worth, right? So customers should be giving feedback and business owners should be asking for feedback. But the key thing with the feedback is you have to, what we call like a closed feedback loop. It's one thing to collect it, but you have to act on it. So it's like if you get feedback, what are you going to do with the feedback? And then use that feedback to improve. Go back to the customer and let them know that your feedback led to A, B, and C.
Okay.
And that's how customers become more comfortable giving you feedback. Yeah.
So what's the way would you advise? I mean, you can give us an overview so that moving forward, people who want to really drill down on their customer service experience can contact you. But then an overview of how best we can structure a feedback system as a business.
Yeah.
Like, I ask this because, okay, one, there are two ends to it. Like as you've rightly identified, customers are reluctant to give feedback, and then business owners dread feedback in this country. What best way can we build a feedback system such that it makes it easy for the customers to give the feedback, and whether it's anonymity or whatever the case is, just it's easy into the process for them, right? And then ways that business owners do not dread the feedback that they're going to get.
Yeah. I think so. This actually goes back to my points about building customer relationships, right? It's like if you think about it as a friendship, like if you have a friend and you've built that friendship, it's easier for that friend to come and tell you, hey, you're doing this wrong. You know, they can give you feedback. They can give you constructive criticism, right? So if you think about it as a friendship, then it kind of takes like how vast am I look, or like how big am I look, or daunting am I look out of it. But if a stranger comes to you and is like, hey, you're doing this wrong, you might be offended. You might be defensive, right? So that's why the customer engagement and the customer relationship management is essential.
So let me try and filter this. So you're suggesting that the best way to get feedback, alluding to friendship, is, okay, build some relationship with this customer, and at some point introduce the feedback system.
Yes.
Don't just
give it to them cold turkey, right?
Okay.
And then in terms of like the actual technicality of it, what I would recommend is, you know, usually when I deal with clients that are well established, you know, big companies, and I also deal with entrepreneurs that are like maybe in the early stages. So, and we call it like the infancy stage of their CX maturity. So they're not mature in terms of anything that has to do with customer experience. And there's such easy tools you can use. They can use Google Forms, creates maybe even a three questions. So customer experience has key metrics that we use to kind of like assess satisfaction. So you can use the Net Promoter Score, which a lot of people are familiar with banks and telcos. It's like, how likely are you to recommend this product or service to your friends and family? And you can also use customer satisfaction score, which is called CSAT. How satisfied were you with this product, experience, or interaction? And then just ask them, do you have any feedback about your experience, your last interaction? So you keep the survey very short, right? Google Forms, and then you create a link, and then you share the link after every interaction. That is the simplest structure that you can have. In the beginning, if you haven't really spent time developing those relationships or with client engagement, it might take a while before people start giving you the feedback and filling out the form. But if they see consistency in it and they see that you're taking it seriously, they will more likely fill out those forms.
Interesting. All right. So is there a way? So are we still going to be on the blockers?
Oh yeah. So
Okay. So customer
last
journey,
year-
customer data, feedback.
and then empowering your employees.
Okay.
Yes. So this is another big challenge.
Very.
Because, okay, so there's different ways we can talk about it, but let me just say that the reason why it's important to empower your employees as a business owner is that you might not always be there, right? And so there shouldn't always be, the default should not always be escalation to the business owner or a manager. You want to empower your employees for quick response, right?
Okay.
So if something goes wrong, your employees have the skills and the tools to be able to rectify and resolve that issue for the customer quickly before it escalates into something bigger. Okay. And, you can empower your employees in so many different ways. So consistent training is the first one.
Okay. So that's where people like you come in.
Yes.
Right.
So with my clients, we do either you can have quarterly trainings, once or twice a year, or I develop resources that they use in-house. So training manuals, SOPs, and they can use that to refer, to train their staff within their business by themselves. Or I just do virtual trainings. But there has to be consistent learning and development for your employees to be at where they need to be. All the best businesses, let me tell you, that deliver on customer experience, they are training their employees like crazy. From the beginning to then onboarding, they're training. Almost every week they're training. There's such a huge training component in their employee experience. Those are the businesses that are excelling in customer experience. Yeah.
One company that I really, really admire when it comes to customer experience is ExpressPay.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
They're so good.
Yes, they're really good.
You can do a transaction at midnight, 1 a.m. if it's pending.
Yeah.
Best believe someone is going to reach out to you 3 minutes later to tell you the reason why your transaction is pending. And it's so good.
Yeah.
They will call you on your birthday or Val's Day, send you a gift. It's just so good.
Yeah. That's responsiveness.
Yeah.
And, ExpressPay is really one of the best brands. When I talk about customer experience in Ghana, anyone asks me what brand is really delivering on customer experience, ExpressPay is that brand. Because they understand personalization. They understand responsiveness. And in this market, businesses are not responsive. You call a business, they don't pick up. Or when they pick up, the person's like, hello, yes. There's no professional greeting. So they have hacked it. They know that by doing these things, they're also gaining the loyalty of customers. And that's how they've expanded. They've done really well.
Really, really well. Did you have story of any of your customers who came through your mail and how you helped them change their grow or get better with your customer experience?
I have several stories. I guess should I mention the brand? No. Okay. So one of my favorite customers is a fast food service, fast casual. And actually don't even work with restaurants or food and beverage businesses anymore.
Right.
They have a lot of work to do. So there's certain factors that I look for in clients and businesses before I'll work with them. Because if those factors are not in place, everything I'm doing is pointless. They're just going to revert back to what they were doing before I came in. So, and with restaurants and food and beverage, it's a bit harder. There's definitely businesses that have hacked it. There's a few restaurants and food and beverage businesses that they really understand what they're doing. But with this client, they came to me a few years ago and they were on the right track. The owners really understood that they wanted to have a customer-centric business. So they're actually known for the fact that when a customer calls them to place an order, their employees answer calling the customer by their name, which is personalization. Oh, wow. So you'll see on social media, it's every time I call, they always say, hello, Maureen, or they mention my name. And customers love that. But with them, they started with one branch and we worked on their training. I worked with their training of their employees, their SOPs, their systems, constantly, even their surveys. I review all their feedback surveys and notice the trends, give them recommendations. Now they're on their second branch, so they've expanded and they're known primarily for also their good food and their customer experience. So that's one of the success stories. But there's so many other little businesses that I've worked with along the way.
Yeah.
And it's just really the business owner is a key factor to the success of the customer experience strategy or framework that I build, but also the organizational buy-in. Everyone.
How is a business owner instrumental in that?
Because it has to be a buy-in from the top down.
Okay.
And then everyone else buys into it. If I've seen situations where the business owner isn't necessarily, they don't understand the value of the customer experience, or they behave in a way that just demonstrates that they don't really value their customers, and it trickles down to the employees because the employees see that and they're like, well, the business owner treats the customers this way, so I can treat the customers this way. So it's very important.
I feel like so I'm a business owner, right? And I want to have like a very quick overview of my strengths in regards to my customer service experience. Are there like some quick pointers I should look at and say, okay, well, I'm more like auditing myself.
Yeah.
And understanding where I'm at with my customer experience. Is there anything you could recommend? I mean, outside talking to a consultant who will come in and is there like an initial thing I could do?
Yeah.
To,
So if you go on my social media, I have a free tool.
okay.
It's the 5-minute CX audit.
Mm-hmm.
Just download it. It basically takes you through the key components of a customer journey and questions that you answer and rate yourself. And when you rate yourself, it will tell you where you are in terms of your customer experience. So maybe you have more work to do, that needs improvement, or you're on the right track. It all boils down to really just sitting down and mapping out the journey. When a customer, let's say, what kind of business do you have?
I like to say I sell shoes.
Okay. So let's say it's luxury shoes, right?
Yeah.
Someone is about to get married and they're looking for a good pair of shoes for their wedding, right? That's the point of awareness. They recognize that there's something that they need to get. Then you ask yourself, if they went online and searched on Google, what would they find about? Would they find your brand? Would they find the websites? Would they find your social media? What information is available that would influence them to purchase from you and not your competitors, right? And this is the point where a lot of businesses lose customers because they're not responsive. First of all, they don't have enough information online. And then when they do respond, they're not giving accurate information to the customer. So the customer might say, okay, well, let me think of a typical response here. The customer might say, how do I make an order? And they'll say, oh, just send us a WhatsApp. What is that supposed to tell me? It doesn't tell me the price. It doesn't tell me how long it's going to take for me to get the pair of shoes. It doesn't tell me what you're offering, and just to use Instagram business owners as an example, the vendors, they might not put their prices up on the pictures, but send a price list
DM for price.
or something, So that's how, when you do it step by step, put yourself in the customer's shoes and do the step by step, the interactions, what touch points, how would they interact with you? What can I do better at each step?
Yeah.
That's how you would optimize your customer experience.
Now that you asked, I'm really curious. Let's take the podcast. Someone who's running a podcast. How do all these things apply?
Well, I mean, it's okay. So with there's customer experience, there's client experience, there's patient experience, there's so many different, but you're thinking about like the experience for that type of customer, that person that you're dealing with. So if you're running a podcast, and should I use my experience?
Sure.
Okay. So if you're running a podcast and you reach out to people for to be guests on your podcast, what information are you giving them during that first interaction? It might be a one-pager about who Bill is. What is the podcast about? What other guests have you had? What do you generally discuss on the podcast? And then maybe after that, you have a phone call consultation. Are they taking notes? You have maybe a phone call consultation. Just kind of like make it formal. You can choose to be informal, but kind of establish rapport, right? And then the scheduling. You could have a scheduling app where they can put what times are most convenient for them. Maybe they might have things that they want to discuss or that they don't want to discuss. There might be an opportunity for that. So when you think, that's what you think about when you think about the experience. And then when they get here, do you offer coffee? Do you offer water? Do you get feedback after the podcast? Maybe send a survey saying like, how did you find the podcast? Is there anything that you would want from us? Maybe behind the scenes, pictures. Yeah. So you think about every single thing from the beginning to end. Yes.
Wow. I have a question. So in your line of work, now customer experience, but there's the advent of AI tools that are supposedly going to replace CRM.
Customer service.
Yes. How do you process that? How do you view that moving forward?
You know what? I'm not entirely worried about that because, having worked in this area in Ghana, especially for the last almost 10 years, we're not even using the basic tools. right? And with AI and customer service, there still has to be a human component. There still has to be a human component. Because I think there was a story about how a customer contacted a business, I think it was in the States, and an AI chatbot gave them the wrong policy. And then the customer found out, realized the policy was wrong, and it became a huge thing. Like, the policy did not even exist, but the AI chatbot gave it to her. And that is a typical example of how you cannot eliminate humans from the customer service or the customer experience. So I don't think businesses should be, or business owners should be rushing to use AI if they're not even ready for it. So even with customer experience, I have a customer experience readiness assessment, because not every business is ready for customer experience. So if you're not ready for customer experience, you might not be ready for AI. Just make sure that you're, even in terms of introducing AI to your employees, there's a whole process that has to happen just so that you're not impacting the employee experience negatively. Yeah.
Interesting. So what does the future look like for Bawoni as a consultancy?
Yeah. So for Bawoni, right now, we're currently expanding our training team because the demand is too much. A lot of businesses need training. I think for us, really just creating a platform where everyone, established businesses, entrepreneurs, can get these customer experience resources easily. We're trying to do that right now, where we develop resources that businesses can use within, by themselves, without having to consult or have us consult. And for me, the main thing is impact, right? I understand how difficult it is to start a business, to run a business. I don't feel that I should price out business owners so that they can't afford to develop their customer experience. Yeah.
So how do you reach out to you?
Social media is the best way. My WhatsApp is on my social media. You'll get an immediate response. Check out all the resources. We have so many resources on our Instagram. And tips. So, yeah.
Great work. I think, like I said earlier on, Ghanaian businesses just have a reputation for terrible customer experience. Banks, to restaurants, to almost everywhere. And so it's great work you're doing in our space.
Thank you.
Okay. It's a gem. And so thank you so much for what you do. We definitely need training.
Yeah.
Here at the podcast. We do need training. And so we will have a conversation on that front. But personally, I think for me too, we've got personal businesses. I think there's a lot we could do there. So
yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And thank you for deciding to build this, or coming to Ghana to build this.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you're not consulting, when you're not thinking about customer experience?
I like to sit in silence. I love silence. I think, naturally who I am as a person, I'm more reserved, right? But because of the nature of the work that I do, I have to talk a lot. I train.
That's the irony.
Coaching, yes. So like I was saying earlier, I have a alternate ego, personality, right? So I turn on that personality for work. And then when I'm not working, I like to just sit in silence. I go to the beach, spend time with my family, close friends, but generally relaxing things. Yeah.
I see. Because, but there was scanty information on the internet. Hacked. Wow. Yeah. But thank you so much.
You're
and
welcome.
It's been a very insightful conversation. I hope it was a great toolkit for our audience. I know it will be. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Right. So friends in the crowd, the world beyond, that was Maureen Atebawone, and so had a great conversation. Hope you did too. You do.